This is a political hatchet job.
Removed and replaced.
I have open eyes. I'm going to look at everything.
The governor shakes up Broward School Board.
No crime was committed here, or we would have been arrested.
Vote for me, Monica Colucci.
Miami-Dade voters give the governor his school board picks.
Meet the next Lieutenant Governor of Florida, Carlo Hernandez.
Democrat for governor Charlie Crist runs with a teachers union's president.
Florida education in the political crosshairs.
I am the police.
The stage is set for Florida's marquee U.S. Senate race.
It's not just going to be 20 arrests. This is the opening salvo of an office that was just set up on July 1st.
Ex-felons and a new felony. How did criminals vote illegally?
The big news of the week and the newsmakers this week in South Florida.
Good morning. Glad you could join us. I'm Michael Putney.
I'm Glenna Milberg. We want to get to the major shakeup at the leadership of South Florida schools. But first, a little bit of breaking news. We've confirmed that Miami-Dade Commissioner Joe Martinez is apparently about to turn himself in sometime this week on public corruption charges. Joe Martinez, first elected to the county commissioner in 2000. He's never been seriously challenged for re-election, as are most incumbents. He was a Miami-Dade police lieutenant previously. His apparent imminent arrest was first reported this morning by Political Cortadito blog. Right now, the exact charges are still pending. I did text the commissioner this morning for his reaction. So far, no response. Now to the school board shakeup, another sign in the growing body of evidence that education has taken center stage in Florida politics.
And late this week, Governor Ron DeSantis removed and replaced 4 Broward School Board members, all women, all white, all Democrats, and they were accused in a grand jury report of incompetence, neglect of duty, and mismanagement. The governor replaced them with 4 men, all Republicans. Those suspended call it a political hatchet job.
It is retaliation by the governor against Broward Democrats. And we can only work as policymakers with the information that was given to us. There's a lot of editorial in this, and it was done for one reason only, and it was to come after our former superintendent and every board member who supported him subsequent to the tragedy.
Of Broward's 9 elected school board member positions, the governor has now appointed 5 of those members. Kevin Tynan is one of those newly appointed members. He is an attorney and a former school board member about a decade ago, also appointed back then to replace a school board member who was arrested for corruption. Kevin Tynan, a little deja vu for you. We are glad that you are with us today. Good morning.
Kevin, welcome.
Good morning. Deja vu is a good phrase.
All over again. Yeah.
I wasn't going to go that far, but yes.
Oh, okay. First, make it clear to us, if you would, and to our audience, did you apply for this job, or did the governor's office come to you and say, I want to appoint you to the school board?
Well, I had talked to a few people that I knew. When the grand jury report came out, I thought that there was a possibility that the governor would be looking for names. I talked to 1 or 2 people to say, if the governor needs somebody, I'm glad to help. So technically I did apply, but that was all last week.
Yeah, well, just to make sure, put a point on this, in 2010, you, in fact, after you had been appointed by then Governor Crist, you applied and you were a candidate in 2010, and you lost to Patricia Good, who, ironically, you and the other 3, one of the 4 now being replaced.
Yes, it is, and it's a challenge for those of us who have been appointed, especially those of us who are going to be short timers, to come in and try and effectuate some change. Currently we're in budget season, and that may be where our focus is.
A lot of the reaction that I've been reading, it's very interesting. A lot of the opposition says that the people who are appointed are not educators, they're not teachers. But really, the school board's position is more administration, more finance. And a lot of the grand jury, well, all of the grand jury report really takes to task the members over construction and budgeting, mismanagement, malfeasance, possibly deceit involving those kind of things. The board members that were appointed seem to, on paper, including yourself, have some kind of involvement with that, but it doesn't get away from the politics of it. And you were just saying, Mr. Tynan, that you said, I'll throw my hat in the ring. Maybe there were people who really do want to be school board members. They are nonpartisan seats. Did you just happen to call the governor? Do you and your colleagues appointed have just an in?
No, I didn't call the governor. I haven't talked to the governor about this at all. And, you know, having served previously in that role, I thought that I'd be able to make an impact. I'd like to make an impact while I'm there. And, you know, you mentioned experience. I think the governor, with the recent appointments, put some experience on the board that was lacking. You know, if you look at the grand jury report, one of the bigger areas is construction and the problems that have been inherent for more than 20 years, if not longer, with all the grand jury reports. Yeah. Mr. Ryder has that construction experience. I have the experience. I've been there. And the criticism, you know, I taught for a while, not in public schools, but I taught at a paralegal school. But here, I think, you know, my experience is in governance and good governance. I spent 8-9 years on the South Broward Hospital District, with some of it as chair. You know, we're here to address what really is supervision issues and making sure that there's compliance with Florida law.
Yeah, well, you are an engaged citizen. We applaud you for that. You are also the former chair of the Broward County Republican Party, and the other 3 men who have been appointed are Republicans. You are replacing 4 Democratic women in a county that is overwhelmingly Democratic. I mean, why isn't this political?
Well, I go back and I look at, you know, first of all, the grand jury report, and really what's interesting is the order that came out unsealing the report, which was signed by Judge Tudor, where he makes a specific quotation about that says their work will likely be criticized, referring to the grand jury, such as acceptable in a democracy. However, any notion their work was politically motivated is without merit and belies their dedication to the task they were asked to perform. And certainly their recommendation is that these individuals need to be removed, and the governor acted on the grand jury's recommendation. This is not like the governor's decision when he suspended 2 officials in Broward County previously. Those were his decisions right as he became governor. This is different. He's relying upon the grand jury.
So let's talk a little bit about that deja vu. In 2009, you were appointed to the school board to replace a member who was arrested for corruption. Then Republican Governor Charlie Crist made that appointment. Beverly Gallagher was the school board member. The allegations loosely involved bid rigging on school construction projects and kickbacks. So
and she took a bribe. That's why
bribery.
She went to jail.
Okay, so fast forward now, a decade plus later, you're in that same position. You're reading the grand jury report. The grand jury report sort of indicates that there are signs that same thing might have happened, although no hard evidence as far as I read in the grand jury report. Mm-hmm. So give us your perspective now. Over the course of a decade, voters are voting people onto that school board. Has anything changed, and why not? And what don't voters know?
Well, you know, from my personal view, it's a systemic failure, and it's been a systemic failure for a long time. Certainly, I tried to be a vocal opponent to the new school tax, and I got a little bit of play with that because I think the system is systemically flawed. We hire consultants to fix what our employees should be doing. You know, and when you look at the grand jury report, you looked at, there were some comments about their evaluations of the prior superintendent, with one of the board members basically copying the same form year after year. That's not good governance. You've got to have a friendly but firm relationship with the folks that you supervise. And if they're not doing the job, you get somebody new. And I don't read anything that I think this superintendent is bad or anything like that. But that's my basic philosophy. You hire the key staff and they run the enterprise, but underneath you. Yeah. And, the previous superintendent, it really looked like to me that he believed he was in charge of everything. And as I understand it, was even raising campaign dollars for one of the people, his harshest critic on the board. Yeah, well, that's just wrong.
Just to recall where we are, Robert Runcie, the previous superintendent, was indicted by the same grand jury for perjury, and he is awaiting trial. Kevin, let me ask you, Governor DeSantis has carved out, as we all know, education as a special interest and niche in his administration and in his campaign. He got the parental rights in education law passed, the Stop Woke law. I think a lot of people are going to ask, is Kevin Tynan and the other three members who are appointed, are you just going to rubber stamp things that the governor wants?
I can't speak for anybody else, but no, as to me, certainly, my political philosophy is closer to the governor's. But I'm a firm believer, and you can see this on what I did last time I was on the board. I'm going to educate myself on all the issues. I'm going to look at it. I'll study it, talk to the professionals or experts, and then make an informed decision. I've never been a rubber stamper in my life.
All right. Well, and I'm not accusing you of one, but I, just felt obliged to ask the question.
No problem, sir.
No one has ever said, yes, I'll be a rubber stamp, just for the record.
True.
Kevin Tynan, great to meet you via TV. We will watch you and the others, and we appreciate your time very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Good to see everybody.
Great.
Up next, the view from the other side.
We're going to talk to a former member of the Broward School Board who would have been suspended, except she is now a state senator. The grand jury report that blasted the Broward County School Board recommended that 5 school board members be suspended.
4 were, though one is no longer on the board. Rosalind Osgood, who was the chair, resigned last year to run for state senate, and she was elected in March. State Senator Rosalind Osgood is with us today, Democrat representing Central Broward neighborhoods. Dr. Osgood, it's so good to see you.
Senator, we're glad you're with us. How are you?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I'm well.
Well, great. As Glenna just said, 5 recommended board members recommended for suspension, and you would have been one of them. So if you hadn't run for the Senate, right now you would be out of any elective office. Would that be fair? Were you guilty of incompetence, misfeasance, neglect of duty?
Absolutely not. I think the citizens of Broward County know the record of the school board. Me personally, I just got reelected by a large number of votes. My work and the record and all of the great things we did to turn around low-performing schools, to bring Montessori programs to low-income areas, Cambridge programs. I could just go on and on about the list of accomplishments that we've had over the last 9 years. One being, in 2012, Broward County was arresting more kids in school than any other county. And we worked with the NAACP and many members of this community to turn that around and stop that from happening. So my record and the way I love this community and serve this community speaks for itself.
All right, I want you just address 2 issues that I think are really important to go into. One, the curriculum and the education. Those are things that are really not in the grand jury report at all. The grand jury did not take to task any of the curriculum or education, programs, schooling, teachers, none of that. It was all about the administration of the SMART program. Construction, school safety was the focus. So what it says is that nobody on the board was holding the underlings accountable, and that the SMART program, $800 million, was over budget and underperforming, essentially wasting Broward taxpayers' money. So, okay, that's one basket. The arrests that you mentioned in the grand jury report, it also alleges that the district was kind of cooking the books and hiding behavioral problems and arrests to look better with the state. So it's kind of a two-part address, and I wonder if you would address both of those things.
Certainly, Glenda. The grand jury report started this whole thing around 2019 dealing with school safety, and then it switched to the school bond. When we got into the projects and we began to look at our strategies, primarily dealing with roofing, and we realized that if we went for the most immediate, cheapest way of doing it and continued to patch roofs, it would not work out for the citizens or be the best use of the taxpayers' dollars for the long term. So we went back and decided to re-roof buildings and make a larger investment in this immediate moment that would in the long term be a better investment of taxpayers' dollars, because if you patch the roof, within 5 years you're back at the same thing. But if you re-roof them and fix them in a way that they're secured for 30 years, the long-term investment will work out for the greater good of the community. So that meant budget costs did increase, projects were slowed down, but it was a more strategic way to have a long-term plan of addressing those facilities. Secondly, with the allegations about misreporting behavior issues and problems, I don't agree with that. We address those problems. We work from information that we receive from school-based staff. The district has done a remarkable job meeting the different needs and challenges of the school district, to include working with the Children's Service Council and other organizations to put in mental health programs and things that our students needed before and after the MSD shooting during the COVID time, to help them to continue to sustain and focus on academic achievement.
Yeah, Dr. Osgood, Lori Rich Levinson, your friend, your former colleague for many years there on the Broward School Board, she says that what happened here with the grand jury report was a political hit job engineered by the governor. She says that you and all the other suspended board members supported Robert Runcie, and this is just payback for doing that. What's your opinion?
Well, I love Ms. Levinson and most of the remarkable women that I work with. But Michael, as a sitting senator right now, and the way that this process works, if any board member decides to appeal, then it could come before the Senate. So I'm not going to make that comment because I'm not going to comment on that because I have to uphold my constitutional responsibilities as a sitting senator.
Can we just go back and just, I want to confirm that we heard properly. Dr. Osgood, Senator Osgood, it seems like you're saying the grand jury was just flat out wrong. Is that a take? Is that valid?
What I'm saying, and I'm going to be clear, the work that we did on the school board and the tangible results that we have in our community as it relates to academics, the improvements we made to improve schools and put different things at schools, even facilities, many of them. Right now, when I left the board, I think it was like 170 plus projects that were on the way. The evidence is in the data, in the statistics, in the tangible work that was done. And I think the people of Broward County see that. Many of us got reelected over and over again. And even with all of the stuff that has been said and in the media, I was personally reelected in January and March to a new seat to serve the community. The community gave me their vote to represent them on the state level. And I think for me, that's the proof in the pudding. At the end of the day, the community decides who their representative is, and they tell you whether they're pleased with your work or not by their votes.
Yeah, well, they do that at the polling place, and you survived that process, and in March were elected. So let me ask you, as a member now of the State Senate, you are going to propose legislation, sit on committees, look at bills that are coming before the Senate. Governor DeSantis has shown he can be a vindictive, tough guy and punish his enemies. Do you expect any of your bills or any of your projects to go forward in the face of opposition from him and the Senate majority in the State Senate? the Republican majority, I should say.
Absolutely not. The governor has made education a priority. What I'm expecting is for legislators to work across party lines and prioritize education. Education is the equalizer. It is the most important thing in any community, whether it's educating our kids or providing jobs and safe work environments for the employees. So I'm expecting everyone in elected office to be true to their constitutional responsibilities and work together to provide mechanisms and systems that our children will be prepared for the future. I'm not expecting anybody to retaliate and play any kind of games. And if they do, they're going to have to give an account to God for that. So I'm excited about being the newly elected state senator for District 33, soon to be 32. And I'm looking forward to working with all of my colleagues to make the state of Florida a better place to work, live, and play.
And that is exactly how it's supposed to be done. Dr. Osgood, appreciate you and appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us.
Rosalind, thanks very much. We appreciate it. All right, up next, in full support of the suspensions, president of Stand with Parkland, the parents group formed after the MSD shootings.
Tony Montalto is that president, and he's with us after the break.
The statewide grand jury, whose report we've been talking about, initially was convened to examine whether systemic school safety failures led up to the murders at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High.
Some of the families who lost sons and daughters and husbands in that mass shooting are applauding the governor's actions. Tony Montalto is one of them, Gina's dad, now devoted to the school safety mission with his organization Stand with Parkland. Tony, it's good to see you this morning. I'm glad you joined with us because you've read the grand jury report. You've heard the school board members who were suspended react. Hopefully you've heard the newly appointed board members, and we're wondering what your take is on what happened this week.
Well, I think first of all, it's important to recognize the great work of the grand jury, the 20th statewide grand jury. Realizing that the Broward County School District has had a long history of being involved in grand jury investigations from the state. Sadly, they've been subject to at least 4 that I know of, that being 1997, 2003, 2011 in the 19th grand jury, and now in 2019 in the 20th grand jury. We applaud the governor's actions, which are clearly needed for a long time here to help clean up the Broward County School Board.
Yeah. Tony, among the 4 members who have been appointed by the governor, you've got a construction expert, you've got a very efficient and reputable lawyer. These 2 other gentlemen have pretty good track records. Do you feel confident that some of the systemic problems with Broward County Public Schools are going to be addressed and fixed?
Well, I think we've seen that much of the negligence and mismanagement regarding the school board has resulted in failures to keep our students and our teachers safe at school. We need more manager type people that can handle the multi-million-dollar projects and the management and direction of those, as opposed to just relying on educators. Educators are important, of course, in our school system, as are administrators, and there's lots of good people in the Broward County School District, but the school board clearly failed in their oversight duties.
You know, Dr. Osgood said something in our last segment. As we're looking at your beautiful daughter over your shoulder, she was 14, and Rosalind Osgood was talking about how voters reelected her and some of her colleagues over and over, and that was a mandate for them to continue what they were doing. You just mentioned several grand juries that had looked at issues with the Broward School Board. I'm guessing that your daughter was in public schools through 3 of them, and I'm interested in your perspective as a voter, as a dad, as a parent of someone in public schools. Those other grand jury reports, which were pretty critical, did you key into those? Did you have a reaction to those like you do now when your family was a victim of what may have gone on?
Sadly, like many of us, I trusted the people that were elected and were the bureaucrats running the school district to keep my daughter and all the other students and staff members in Broward County Schools safe. They were not performing those duties. Their permissive attitude allowed lax security, lax safety measures. We just saw about a year and a half ago a school roof collapse.
Yeah.
I mean, how lucky we were that more people didn't get killed.
Right.
Clearly, there were problems in the Broward County School Board.
Tony, you, to your credit, have spent a good deal of time in Tallahassee. You have lobbied for the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Act, and it mandates, among other things, that when a school district gets state money to secure schools, it's got to spend the money on that. A recent report I saw said that under Vicki Cartwright, the new superintendent, relatively new, that in fact Broward County Public Schools are doing better in that regard. Are they?
They're clearly doing better, as evidenced by Superintendent, pardon me, Superintendent Cartwright's presentation to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Commission, where she detailed the steps that the district has taken. Sadly, let's remember that the 20th grand jury came about because former Superintendent Runcie gave, shall we say, less than truthful answers to the questions when asked by the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Commission. And he showed an incredible lack of urgency to fix safety issues that had been identified in the wake of my beautiful daughter's death, her 13 classmates, and her 3 teachers.
You know, back when Sheriff Scott Israel was suspended by the governor in the months after the shooting and held responsible for a lot of it by the governor, Governor Ron DeSantis had come to the families and almost consulted with the families about the suspension and the replacement. I'm wondering if the governor or anyone in his office consulted with the families on the school board member replacements.
I was not part of that. Some might have been. More importantly, it's to remember that the people were removed because of their failures. Who the governor chose to replace them is the governor's business, but it's certainly important to remember that they were removed for cause, as found by the grand jury report.
Yeah. On the other hand, I think in fairness, we should point out that none of those people have been charged with a crime. I mean, you don't have to rise to the level of a crime to be guilty of misfeasance, malfeasance, neglect of duty, and the other, criteria listed for suspension. So that's one thing. I guess the bottom line here is, I want to ask you politically, I don't know what party you belong to, and I don't necessarily want you to tell me, but Broward County is predominantly a Democratic county. Now you've got 4 new school board members who are Republicans. Is that fair? Does that reflect what Broward County is?
I'll just say that school board positions are nonpartisan the last time I checked on the ballot.
Yeah,
so to bring politics into it, which these accused and removed people have done, quite frankly, is not a fair reflection. Again, we need to hold our public officials accountable. We need accountability and honesty in our public officials, especially when our schools are concerned. That's one of the reasons we had to have the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Commission extended to the year 2026, this year in the legislature. And I'll quote the 19th grand jury report, which says, "Bad habits and corrupt practices often return when the light of inquiry is turned off."
Yeah, well, amen. We believe that too. That's part of what journalism is supposed to
job.
do, is shine the light in dark places and let the little roaches run out and be prosecuted. Tony Montalto, we appreciate your time this morning.
Always. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's not just going to be 20 arrests. This is the opening salvo of an office that was just set up on July 1st.
The governor announced the first arrest of the new Office of Elections, Crimes and Security. Turned out to be 20 felons who were arrested for voting illegally.
All of them had committed murder or sex crimes, the kind of crimes that excluded them from regaining voting rights under that 2018 Voter Restoration Amendment. So how could they have voted in the first place? Neil Volz is Deputy Director of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. That's the group behind the passage of Amendment 4. Neil, I think the last time you were with us was right around when voters approved that 4 years ago, and boy, have things changed since then. But I guess the question to you, because you're so intimately involved in that amendment and the new laws around it, how could these 20 felons have even been registered to vote?
Well, I think that's a great question. And one, just thank you so much for shining a light on this issue, for having me on the show. I'm actually in Orlando at the FRC convening. We've got hundreds of returning citizens, those of us with past convictions, celebrating democracy as we speak. And you bring up a really good point, because I think this is a moment that's actually bigger than any election, bigger than any particular campaign. This is about our republic. This is about our democracy and how it works. And we see that the system is broken based on the very question that you asked. We know that the challenge is on the front end of the process. People are getting voter eligibility cards. They're getting their voter ID cards. And when the government is giving people their ID cards, it gives them a suggestion that they are in fact eligible. What else would you think in that moment? And so our hope in this moment is to say the same thing now that we were saying in 2019, 2020, 2021, and that is that voter integrity starts at the front end of the process, and that none of these people should have been arrested in the first place if the system worked the way we all want it to work. And so we're grateful for the opportunity to focus our efforts and challenge the government to spend as much time, as many resources trying to fix the front end of the problem, rather than spending taxpayer dollars and taking law enforcement's time and the court's time arresting Florida citizens. Think about where we are. I'm a patriot. I'm a 20+ year conservative activist, in addition to being a returning citizen. And here in our state, we had people with a SWAT team arresting folks for voting. Florida citizens being arrested for voting. We can do better, and that's our hope, is to take this to a different level, keep it out of the partisanship and the politics, and say that this is about our democracy, this is about our republic,
Neil,
and we can fix it on the front end.
If I can jump in, forgive me. There's been a lot of good reporting by journalists around the state since the governor announced the arrest of these 20 ex-felons. And in almost every case that I have seen, including a gentleman in Miami-Dade County by the name of Hart, who told the story that he was going to apply for a driver's license, and that a voter registration person had set up next to, or had an office there, and that he offered him, the right to vote. And the man who offered him the right to vote was wrong, because Mr. Hart had been convicted of a serious felony that excluded him, but there was no intent to defraud, and that appears to be the case for most of these 20 people. They didn't intend to break the law. They were just given voter registration cards or thought that they had the right to vote. Is that right?
That's right. I think if you read some of these affidavits, you see human beings, our fellow citizens, talking about how they were just yearning to vote. They hadn't voted before. It made them feel like a citizen in their community again, and that they thought they could do this. And it was a wonderful, sacred thing that they were joining in. And to your point, if you can't trust the government to verify eligibility for voting, who can you trust? So when we have people, leaning onto the government to guide them and walk them through this process, and then years later finding themselves in a situation in which they're being arrested, we just know that that's the representation of a system that doesn't work as well as it should. And it should touch all of our hearts, because I know people from all walks of life. The beauty of Amendment 4 was we brought people together from all walks of life. And we know that people who are being arrested right now are coming from all walks of life, all political persuasions. And the folks who want to help are all also coming from all walks of life and all political persuasions, because this is deeper than politics and kind of the moment.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of what you speak to is Amendment 4 and its rules and regulations is still really fairly new. And the governor-backed Office of Election Integrity and Election Crimes is very, very new, not even 2 months old. But does this speak somehow to voters, and people who want to be voters really need to take a little bit of responsibility and know this stuff?
Yeah, I think that what we're seeing is that, is a situation in which all law enforcement across the state, you talk to any professional law enforcement, they will tell you the best way to fight crime is to stop it from happening in the first place, right? And so we go back to the basics here, that the government is responsible for voter eligibility. We all want voter integrity. It starts on that front end of the process. I think about as somebody with a conviction, if I were to register to get SNAP benefits, quickly they could tell me whether I'm eligible or not. If you had a 14-year-old go into that same DMV that we were just talking about, the system would be set up to say, you know what, you're not eligible. Well, we have a situation now where people were told, according to them, the way they interpreted it, based on the affidavits and the reporting, that they were told by the government that they could vote.
I'm sorry if I can jump in here. I interviewed you a couple of weeks ago after the governor made this announcement about the 20 arrests. And part of the problem, or a main part of the problem, is that there is no state database. The election supervisors submit the names of people who apply to be voters. They go up to Tallahassee, and it's not as if Tallahassee has a correct list of who can or who cannot vote or who should be excluded. So why isn't a database created?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It sounds like the same, we've been trying to beat this drum for years to focus on exactly what you're talking about. Other states have a statewide database in which people with past convictions, go through that statewide database and they're told on the front end before they get their voter ID that they're eligible. I really think that if we can all get behind that vision, that this is a problem that we can solve, it requires the political will to do it. It requires prioritizing and getting together and having a conversation. But ultimately, you're right. This is an information management issue that now we failed in that end, and people's lives are being disrupted. And we're seeing things happen in our state that just is unsettling to people, no matter what their political persuasion. We're getting phone calls and emails from people from all over the state who are very alarmed by what's going on. And we want to be an organization and a movement that allows our experiences to remind us that we know how we can fix this. And you just asked that right question. It's on the front end. Voter integrity starts on the front end of the process.
I think that's going to be the final word, and a good one in which to end. Neil Volz, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Neil.
All right, the primary is over. The candidates are out there set. They are campaigning, and the battle has begun.
Florida's U.S. Senate race is getting national attention. Democrat Val Demings challenging Senator Marco Rubio. You will hear from her when we come back. Tuesday's primary made a foregone conclusion official. Florida Senator Marco Rubio will face his most challenging opponent yet, Congresswoman and former Orlando Police Chief Val Demings.
We are being outraised by these far left Marxists who continue to give her, $50 a month or whatever a week.
Far left Marxist. Demings has shown an ability to raise a lot of money. She raised more than Senator Rubio in the last period, $48 million to his $36 million. She appeared at a campaign event in Plantation this week. I spent a few minutes with Representative Val Demings, and I began by asking her reaction to a statement by Senator Rubio that he opposes abortion even in cases of rape, incest, or human trafficking.
There are some things I can't say on camera in responding to that, but as a former police detective, a former police sergeant who investigated cases of rape, incest, and abuse in the Crimes Against Children unit, I think that's disgraceful and disgusting. This vicious attack on women and girls makes absolutely no sense. And quite frankly, Marco Rubio should be ashamed of himself.
His attendance record is mediocre at best in the Senate. He has missed on the average about 9% of the votes in the last year. The ads that you're running, make him seem like a guy who never shows up at all. He does show up sometimes, though, doesn't he?
You know what? Imagine if, as the police chief or even our police officers working midnight shift patrol, should the citizens be thankful because Well, they do show up sometimes. But don't just look at his voting record. I know that's what he wants you to just look at. Look at his attendance record in those hearings, in those committee meetings, where the real decisions are being made about what is voted on the floor. Take a look, and you will see that Marco Rubio does not like coming to work, and when he does, he votes against things that are good for Florida.
As you well know, Florida has a sizable and influential Jewish population, and Marco Rubio has impressed them by being a very strong supporter of Israel from the get-go. What is your message to Jewish voters?
You know, I talked in our meeting today about my first congressional trip as a new member of Congress was to Afghanistan and Iraq for obvious reasons, America's longest war. My second congressional trip was to Israel because as a new member of Congress, I wanted to be there on the ground to talk to people about things that truly matter to them so that I could be the best member of Congress that I could. We know that there's no greater ally in the region. I serve on the Intelligence and Homeland Security committees. We have made sure, without fail, that Israel has the resources that it needs to be able to protect themselves. With the billions of dollars in funding that we have voted for and approved, the Iron Dome program, voted for and approved over and over again. But I think it's important that people understand it's not just a one-way relationship. Our support of Israel leads to Israel's support of America. We need each other, and we are so wonderful that they're a strong ally. You know, one thing I've learned about the senior senator from Florida, he can make his mouth say anything, and I'm glad he's impressed people by maybe showing up at their meeting. I show up and go and do the work. And when people make hateful, vicious statements, whether they're involving religion or ethnicity, I speak up and speak out against those things. Maybe he should try doing the same thing.
And one last question. Here you are coming off a monumental, a landslide win for the nomination. You've raised, at last report, $48 million, maybe 10 or more million than Senator Rubio. Do you have the momentum?
There's no doubt we have the momentum. We've been traveling the state from the Panhandle down to the Keys, talking to people, voters in red counties and blue counties, just like I did as a police chief, talking to people about things that matter to them. People are sick and tired of career politicians who will not move forward an agenda that works for the people, but their own personal political agenda. That is what I'm hearing on the trail, Michael. And also, yes, I'm thankful and grateful for the money that we've raised because surely it is the fuel of this campaign. But the average contribution is around $30. These are people who have to go to work every day or seniors who are on fixed incomes who believe they deserve to have somebody in the United States Senate who sees them and hears them.
And so much more to come in the next 10 weeks. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. You know you can never get enough. So to rewatch today's interviews or listen to the This Week in South Florida podcast, all you have to do is scan this QR code with your phone right there. It'll take you right to the This Week in South Florida section of local10.com. And we thank you so much for being here with us, as always, this hour. And remember, Local 10 is online 24/7.
And remember, as always, stay informed, get involved. Have a great Sunday.